Welcome back everyone to the Hanseatic Dreamland, and today we are building apparently a coaster, and to be more precise we are building a Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster. More about that type of coaster in a second while we're talking about this in today's video and why I specifically decided to go for that kind of coaster. It has been more or less a suggestion in one of the latest videos in the comment section down below. I'll go into that and into the inspiration for this ride, but I think it's fitting perfectly into the space. But before we go into it, here's again the little reminder: Instant Gaming is the sponsor of the channel, and you can get game keys for very good value whenever you want. You just click the linky in the description and you'll be brought via my link to the wonderful platform, and you can get games or in-game currency or take part in some lotteries or whatever giveaways. Fully legit, it does work, it's absolutely working, and if there's any problem you will always be able to go and contact the support. It's all good, so make sure to check out the link in the description down below. And now let's get into today's video. Because first things first, we talk about the location of this very ride. You can see it is going to be the connection part between our western area, or shall I say the second entrance to the western area, and the lower riverside. You'll also see me putting all your names, the members of the channel names, from one container to the other. As promised, you'll all be part of it. Last episode we had was it last episode or the episode before? I forgot already. What is even time? I did put you on the leaderboard on the go-kart track, and for the next members, for the next who become members of the channel, I'll have something new in pattern. Or like I have something new in pattern. What did I have? Like in pedo? Is that what you say? Whatever. In German there is that saying. I'm not sure if that's an international one. You know, I'm just making things up here and there. Anyways, but I've got an idea for another integration. So we've got all these Easter eggs and little ideas throughout the series, and if you're interested, you can do it. Now, talking about the layout, you will also have an on-ride later on. Yes, this time around I thought of it. So the reason, before I go into the layout, because the layout we have to talk about a lot more. I'm not 100% happy as of now. I changed a dramatic amount of things later on, even off screen, because I wasn't happy with the first iteration. But before we talk about the layout itself, let's talk about the coaster and its location. Now, I've thought a long time about what I want to do over here, and overall what this park is going to offer, because that is yet another very adult and maybe even teen attraction, but it's definitely not for families and kids. And the park so far has been more on the bit more thrill side of things. You know, we already have 4 very mature coasters in the park. You know, we've got the spinner, which technically still could be, you know, a family coaster. Is still okay. But then we have the tipper coaster, which is definitely not a family coaster. It's definitely more on the heavy side. We do have the hyper coaster, which again is more of a, yeah, you know, it's not a typical family coaster, but it's also a bit more on the thrill side. And then we have that kind of steel launched coaster across the lake, which is again another thrill ride. So, you know, I think continuing this theme is very good for this park. You know, I feel like after Isla Napali, that is the original story, and if you are not aware what Isla Napali is, you better watch out and you better check the video out. That was my Planet Coaster 1 series that kind of kept this channel alive. The main reason why this channel still exists today, and that I have not abandoned YouTube. So at least I'm very thankful for that. But the reason I built this park is the idea that the original owner of Isla Napali now also bought this abandoned area of the Hamburg Harbor section and is targeting this a bit more to the adults and teens and making sure it's a good tourist attraction as well. But we also have the opportunity to use all the facilities of the harbor to still bake in enough of a family appeal to it. But I thought this coaster over here is the perfect skyline. So on the other side of the river, just across this area here, is the entrance area of the park. This is where the main entrance sits. We will have a second entrance this time around, which I'm going to build rather soon because I have a very specific idea in mind. But this is the main entrance across the river from the side of this coaster, and there is also where the boat is arriving. This is also where the buses are arriving, and so And this coaster not only is a very cool skyline to the other side of it, also the very iconic lift hill, I decided to go for the one with the beyond vertical drop, is also very iconic, but yet again can tie in very nice to the harbor theme, because we can yet again theme this lift hill, which exactly is going to happen after yet another of these harbor cranes to tie in the whole thing. By the way, the name of the coaster is going to be Brandung, which is the German word for surf, and it's not going to be a surf coaster, which would have been naming-wise potentially the more relative coaster type to choose, but I wanted to go a bit more of the roughness of the surf that the North Sea is offering, where obviously the Hamburg Harbor is located in. So the roughness is also part of this ride, and it's like an infinity. The infinite roughness, it's not even a word. You get the idea, okay? So the Infinity Coaster kind of wanted to tell that story a little bit. And it is definitely going to be a custom-made coaster for specifically this park. So we are not going with a more or less typical layout, even though I'm not entirely sure if there is that one typical layout of this type of coaster. I figure I do at least know two specific that were my inspiration. The one is going to be obviously the Smiler at Alton Towers, and the other one is actually der Schwur des Kernan from Hansa Park in Germany, which is for me personally still a very odd one in that location of a park. I've never been there to neither of them, so I watched a couple of POVs and made sure to tie in some of the elements, or at least the type of elements, because I still made this relatively custom over here, because I feel like this coaster is one of the beautiful coasters that, like, they are very good for me personally, because I'm not the biggest fan of just clipping these specific elements into each other. Like, see, the point is I've been very bad at building coasters when Planet Coaster 1 arrived. I've been an enthusiast because I love theme parks, but I've been very bad at coasters. Now, then I learned a couple of things. I talked a lot to the likes of Sylph and so on, and I learned the beauty of building more realistic coasters, yet I'm not so good at that like other people are. However, one thing that I never started to enjoy is the absurd realism of just using existing pieces and put them together in kind of the order that it is supposed to be, because the standard layouts have it. So I've always been a fan of coasters like, for example, Black Mamba or Taron, just because they are custom. And maybe because I'm European and specifically German and not like so used to the US, and also I'm a huge Disney fan, so I obviously also know the custom Disney coasters, just like Big Thunder Mountain or Space Mountain or Rock'n'Roller Coaster even. Despite the fact I believe Rock'n'Roller Coaster is one of the few standard-ish layouts that also exists somewhere else, but you know, don't quote me on that, I'm not entirely sure. But like, again, I've been more on that side of things, and so for me personally it's not really that exciting to use existing pieces and then meticulously build exactly the same pieces right after each other to just make that a realistic coaster, because realistically that has been one of the standard layout, and then click standard layouts together, which obviously is the right way to go and the more realistic way to go. But I personally, I wanted to create like a custom one that follows more or less the rules and the dynamic of an Infinity Coaster and of what an Infinity Coaster, gosh, so many pronunciation issues today, I'm very sorry, very tired also. But yeah, I'm trying to build my very own one that has been baked into this area. And you may not be able to see the vision as of now, but if you imagine that we have this abandoned harbor area, and for now it looks like I put these things into places and then build around them, which is just a workflow that the game is requiring me to do. But realistically, there would have been buildings already existing in various spaces that you can't just get rid of, or if you would get rid of them, this is like very expensive indeed, and the more easy way would potentially be to make use of most of the buildings, to not, you know, necessarily have the need to build a new coaster and new accommodations for that and new buildings. So the idea is that a coaster like this would have needed to be slotted into a position with all these buildings and stuff in mind. So that is why certain elements may be a little different and a little, you know, custom in comparison to what it would be in the real world. So specifically, that goes into the straightness, if that even is a word, of some elements. Like some of the elements, I would have needed to end them in a bit more of a straight way, because it just like the game or like the realism would require it to be like this. But I needed to do a couple of other things to maintain the flow I had in mind. But yeah, I can talk you more through that once this thing is done. The next episode will be more likely to make all the theming around this coaster. That definitely was too much for one episode. It took me way longer to build this coaster, which has nothing to do with the coaster builder or the game itself, by the way. I don't want to blame it. I mean, I still find the old one a bit more convenient, but I do find this coaster builder a lot more suitable for me to make a very good flowing coaster. And I gotta say, the smoothness of it later on is pretty damn good in terms of what I am able to do in comparison to in the past. I also, at one point, I was looking for certain things like the coaster limits. I thought I had deactivated them and not activated, and I kind of did. And so at some point I wasn't able to do certain things, which confused me in a way, because the coaster should have been able to do this anyways. But I think it was just an error on my side and not the game's mistake, but whatever. So yeah, once I figured that out, I started to put down a couple of containers here and there to just already get a very rough idea of where certain things can be sitting. The left-hand side over here will potentially be changed once we have the update 4, because I feel like the scissor would be a very cool attraction to slot into that place. To go along, I think this fits very well into the style of the coaster. I love the color scheme already, going for this like very darkish blue-red kind of contrast, and then using white coaster supports, or like light gray, I should say. I will do a lot of custom supporting on this coaster, which I usually don't, but I think it's also needed in the greater scheme of things. And I also wanted to have a bit more of an interesting path layout here and there. So what I did over here, as you can see, I'm also grabbing that bridge that I did for the coaster go-kart track and put this over here and manipulated that, even though the bridge is not the most beautiful looking at the end of the day. And it also took me way longer than I expected to make it right. I wanted to have the opportunity to have another way leading over the coaster, to have a bit more interaction, As I said earlier in this series, the biggest challenge will be to create a bit of immersion and a lot more interesting views, because not having too many natural inclines and height differences is sometimes making it harder to create something special. And so I want to use these things to create certain height levels, to create also a bit more interest, and also to create a layering of elements to make the overall park look a bit more interesting. We will also use a couple of roofs and buildings later on to create certain things, a bit more depth and so on, just to make the park overall a bit more interesting to look at. I gotta say though that I'm very happy with the current state of the park. There will be one or two more episodes, and then I'm gonna release this as a season 1 to the workshop, so you guys can all explore that yourself. The voices are getting louder, and that you guys want to explore it as well. So I'm gonna release this. I've got major plans for this park in the future. Let's see what Frontier's up to with the next updates. But oh my god, I've got so many ideas still in mind that I want to achieve. I'm still so freaking happy about the theme I chose for that specific park over here. I think I've never had a series that was so captivating in terms of its core idea like this one is. I don't have the feeling that there's anything I want to do in this game that I couldn't possibly put in this project. Maybe apart from some very natural things like I did with Splash Peak. That potentially is something I mean, technically you could fit that in one of the bigger halls and pretend this is another themed kind of North American, I don't know, peak, like mountain-ish hall, whatever. That would kind of work still, but I didn't want to do that. But apart from that, I'm very happy. And also in terms of adding a bit of realism, this time around I did think about making a proper transfer track in, which we are even going to theme a little bit right now, just to make use of, of some of the new pieces from the Western set, actually, I should say. The rail is such a cool piece, by the way, such a cool iron piece I wanted to use. And then apparently we have all these support pieces that we also got with some of the free updates. So you can really see the image coming together more and more. It feels a lot more like the old Planet Coaster game, being in a completely new look, I should say, because the graphics, also this is something I noticed throughout my series over here, that the overall graphics, like people have been rightfully so complaining about the poppiness and colorfulness and maybe saturation. But what I found is when you build a bigger park and you have enough context, I want to say, enough buildings around, and you can see that very nicely in this specific area over here, the game becomes a lot more natural looking. And I think it is because of the global illumination and ray tracing happening. So the more buildings and stuff you have, obviously stuff is going to turn down. I feel like the big green canvas is creating this very, you know, very warm and oversaturated look. I think if you go for a more natural park, which I did with the Splash Peak indeed, you still have that issue. But the more buildings you do and the more you build also with gray and corrugated steel and blah, 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 it's starting to tone down a lot. And I like this a lot. Like, really, I like this a lot. Now, we're going over into a POV now, and then I've got some off-ride shots to make the final conclusion of this video. But I'm going to talk through this POV a little. So sorry for those of you who love these POVs with only the sound. You'll get that as soon as this area is themed. But yeah, we've got this huge element at the start where we go into 2 very long hang times. Then we go into another very smooth inversion, which is a bit faster than the other one. And from there on, we actually gain a bit of pace. We've got this outwards banked top hat over here going into another very nice roll that is stretched out a bit longer to get into the right position. And then we have this little bit zigzag part that goes over the entrance area here. Another long curve where I have to change a bit of the banking. It's not perfect yet. And this part over here I have to completely improve after the brake run, mid-course brake run. We go into another roll that is then ending up into a helix. And then this is a very interesting element over here. Another outward bank turn that goes into a right-hander and then switches rightfully back into a left-hander. Very overbanked. This turn over here needs some more banking or better banking up into the brake run. You've seen maybe in the video that I have been building a little bit more in one of the first iterations of this build, but I at some point figured that, you know, it just doesn't work and I wanted to do something shorter at the end, also to create a bit of a nicer flow when it comes to going for a block sectioned operation of the coaster. And yeah, I mean, this is the final result that you can see on screen right now, and I am very, very happy indeed. Again, as for me, a person who is maybe not the very best at building coasters, I am very happy with this result, with this specific result of a coaster. I think it's looking beautiful. I think it's fitting right in here. It's a perfect location for this specific coaster. And I may say that this coaster is maybe in Planet Coaster 2 my best layout so far in terms of its interesting elements mixed with a good location, mixed with still a very, like, it's not compact, you know, but relatively compact given the type of coaster. It has some very cool point of views. It has a very cool sideline, and once it's being supported properly, I mean, at least, you know, depending on my capabilities of making proper supporting, but you get what I mean. It's going to look very cool. So, with a couple of glory shots and first-person shots or whatever I want to call this, I gotta end this video today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave me some feedback about the coaster. Please leave me a bit of feedback about this episode, if you like the park or not, and just let me know. Get into contact, get into the discussion. Let's make the comment section a bit fun. And as always, I talk to you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, and whenever you want a game or something else, make sure to click the linky of Instant Gaming in the description down below. Let's put a Y on every word we have, just because it's so cool. I don't know. Yeah, and just have a good day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you, as always, in the next one.